Good evening to parents and carers and any community members that are watching us this evening. Welcome to this evening's Forest Focus webinar on transition, and this specifically is for parents and carers of Year 6. So what we are hoping for is that we've got lots of people at home or wherever they are at the moment watching who will be joining us as new Forest community members, or maybe some from the prep school very shortly in September. So welcome to you all. We're really excited to host this webinar. This is a new additional webinar, and it was part of the transition strategy of the lower school leadership team. So it's a massive add to, as always, our signposting of support and a real sign of how much we value our interactions with parents and carers. And we are very, very excited to welcome our new joiners shortly. It's not that long actually till the end of the term, and that summer's going to fly by. So before I introduce our phenomenal lower school leadership team, I just want to make you aware that our Forest Focus Parent Carer webinars are something that started about 1.5 years ago. If you haven't heard of them before, this was something that we wanted to do as outreach and support for our parents and carers in our community. And we have a range of topics, and we always welcome suggestions or advice of any other topics that you want to hear about in our series. We want to really work with parents and carers at Forest. We want to educate each other. We want to work as a team collaboratively to support young people in our care. So in doing so, our final webinar of this half term will be on Monday, the 20th of May, and that's going to focus on safeguarding and child protection at Forest. So it's going to give you insight into what we do to safeguard young people at Forest, and that's going to be led by our phenomenal Deputy Head Safeguarding, Mr. Jeff Kane. We're not expecting any technical difficulties this evening, but if we do happen to have any, please do bear with us just so I can support the team, and we'll make sure we get back on track as soon as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the lower school team, but first of all, Mr. Jonathan Sloan, who is our head of lower school, and I wish you a wonderful evening and hope you enjoy the webinar.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Milton. Welcome parents, carers, and potentially new Year 6s as well joining us. Thank you very much for giving us your time tonight for this webinar. We are delighted to be talking about transition to Forest Senior School. We'll talk through what exactly that means and what it looks like, as well as sharing some top tips as well, which I hope you'll find and insightful. My name is John Sloan. I'm head of lower school. And firstly, I'd just like to talk you through the running order of events tonight. Our first speaker will be Amanda Gale, who heads up our Place to Be provision at Forest. So she'll be talking to you about what this means and what it looks like. We'll then hear from Miss Murphy, our Deputy Head of Lower School Personal Development, to talk through all things personal development and what our personal development curriculum is and means and how it fits seamlessly into our transition programme. You'll then hear from Dr. Peters, our Deputy Head of Lower School Academic, sharing some top tips and gems to get you set up academically, ready for September. And then you'll be hearing from me, and I'll speak a little bit more generically about co-curricular life, academic life, and pastoral life, and some of the things I've learned from the job that I hope you'll find useful as well as incoming parents and carers and pupils for Year 6. We will then end with some questions. I'm sure there'll be some questions to ask as well. We'll do our best to answer as many as we can. And if we can't quite get to everyone at our 7 o'clock cut-off, then we'll signpost ways for you to follow up your questions. Without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Amanda, and we're going to try and make this as seamless as possible. It's going to be a bit of a switching chairs. Hopefully you won't notice. Over to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan, and welcome everybody to this webinar this evening. My name is Amanda Gale, and I'm the School Project Manager for Place to Be here at Forest School. I'm on site here 5 days a week, and I work very closely with the Forest staff. Now, Place to Be is a children's mental health charity working in schools to improve the emotional well-being of children. And our team helps children and young people to find ways of coping with difficulties so they can focus on their learning and building friendships. your child will be very well supported by their core pastoral team at Forest. And I've included my email address here for you to contact me if you have concerns about your child's well-being or any questions about the Place to Be service and how it works in school. So it's important to remember that it's normal to feel excited and a little anxious when embarking on new experiences, and some nervousness can be helpful in preparing us for something new. So what do children tell us about why transition can be hard? It can be difficult and sad saying goodbye to their old school and staff who they may feel know them well, and this will apply if you're coming up from the prep school or if you're from a new school. Suddenly being the youngest in a new environment rather than the oldest somewhere that's familiar. Having to get used to new friendship groups, new dynamics, maybe languages and references that they're not familiar with, and the importance of wanting to be accepted. Getting used to a completely new school layout, having to navigate moving classrooms between lessons, getting to know new staff, and maybe studying subjects that are also new. So all in all, it's a lot of change, and many people find big changes tricky. How can Place to Be help? One of the services offered is called Place to Talk. This is a pupil self-referral service, and it's available to all students if they wish to attend. You'll receive further information about this next term, which will tell you everything you need to know. But briefly, it's a chance for the children to spend around 15 to 20 minutes with a trained counsellor to talk through worries and concerns. Place to Be aims to normalise emotions. If children are feeling anxious, unsettled, missing their old school or their friends, this is all completely normal human reaction. And we can offer reassurance that it may take time to feel more comfortable and get used to this new environment, and that that's okay. They won't be the only one feeling like this. It's very easy to assume that everyone else is doing just fine, and it can be helpful to know that others are experiencing similar challenges. For many children, the support they receive from school staff, along with a Place to Talk session if they wish, will be enough to help them settle in. If we at Place to Be or any school staff notice that any child seems to be struggling more than what might seem reasonable, we could think about a referral to the Place to Be counselling service, and we would contact you as parents or carers in the first instance to discuss this. So what can parents do to support with transition? Talk to your children about how they've coped with changes and transitions in the past. They will have managed to move to a nursery, a primary school, maybe a house move, or starting a new club or activity. Remind them how they coped and got used to the new setup. Let them know that you understand if they're finding it tough and that adapting to change can be unsettling. They may be worried about other things too, about uniform rules, doing homework, what to take into school, academic expectations, how lunchtime it's organised, and when they can go to the toilet. Talk to them about this to offer reassurance. These changes can be hard for you as well as parents or carers. It can feel difficult to let your child go into an environment that you don't know well and that you have less control over. Children can often pick up this feeling of anxiety from parents or carers, so try to find ways to manage that. Looking after yourself will help you be there for your child. Remember that your child still needs you and relies on you, and even though they want to be grown up and independent, they still need you close by and paying attention. Thank you for listening this evening. Do please feel free to contact me with any questions that you may have, and I wish you and your children a wonderful experience at Forest. I'm now going to pass over to Miss Murphy.
Thank you, Amanda, and good evening, everybody at home. I am Miss Murphy. I'm Deputy Head of the Lower School with responsibility for personal development. And I think one of the things to just sort of explain, first of all, is what do we mean by personal development here at Forest? Well, it's sort of everything to do with how a young person is feeling about themselves. It's about their sense of place within the world, their sense of placement within the community, and how they feel in terms of their values and where they might be heading. At Forest, in the lower school, middle school and sixth form, there are a range of topics that sort of come under personal development, and you'll see them displayed on the screen on the side here. So we speak about aspects of faith and belief as part of personal development. We cover conversations about equity, diversity and inclusion. We think about futures, which is what we call careers. And obviously conversations about sustainability and well-being and charity continue throughout the time as well. It's important that you also know that we try and train students to be coach like in their approach to interactions with themselves and with each other. And I'll speak a little bit more about coaching in a few minutes' time. Specifically with the lower school, how do we embed the personal development curriculum? Well, it's through the tutor time programme. So every morning your child will tutor, and they'll spend about 25 minutes together in the morning and then again at the middle of the day, where they cover the personal development curriculum. And our curriculum is mapped according to the 7 school values, and you'll see the journey displayed on the screen as well. So we begin year 7 with a key focus on growth and community. The values there are specifically chosen with recognition that children are new to the school, new to the community, whether that's from prep school or outside. And we want to foster a sense of community from the moment they join us in the lower school. As the year progresses and we go into term 2, we want to make sure that all the great work that they've done in term 1 is purposeful, and we have conversations about well-being and how they're looking after themselves and how they're being a good friend to those around them. In term 3, we have conversations about diversity and what it means to exist in a diverse community and in a diverse world. It's not to say that these values are the only time that we focus on, the values are only focused on at these specific terms, but there's a more explicit focus on these values as we progress. In year 8, the remaining 3 values are mapped, and we sense a step up in terms of responsibility and accountability. So we map the values of responsibility, hard work, and learning in year 8. So when we think about how we want young people to be, one of the things to just talk about this evening is that we skill them up in coaching. And we'll be speaking to the young people about the way in which coaching is really interesting. There are 3 M's of listening. We'll speak about effective questioning, and we'll share with them that the coachee, they themselves, have all the answers. And so something you might want to just sort of, lightly discuss at home when they join or from now on. The 3 M's of listening is really interesting. We speak about the me listening, which is when you're quite, self-absorbed and listening only to your own thoughts. The micro listening and the macro listening are the bigger picture things that could be giving indicators. So body language and words that are used with themselves, with friends around them, as clues as to how they're interacting with each other's. Yeah, effective questioning is all about just taking people as they are, never asking why, but just learning about people. How do you do this? What makes this interesting to you? And never asking why. We tend to think that why might be a bit of a judgment. So those are sorts of things that we cover in coaching. And I just felt it important to give you a heads up as to the overview, the headlines, if you like, that we cover in term 1. We make sure often that we ask for students' voice, and we're really conscious about getting feedback from them all the way throughout their time at Forest, but most notably in term 1 with year 7 in terms of the settling in survey. And this year it was really pleasing to read the results. So many students said so many positive things, most notably the sense of freedom, independence and friendship came up in answer to the question about what they're enjoying most about senior school so far. And we recognise, following on from what Amanda said about the transition can be quite big and quite scary, but children respond really well to it, and they say that they enjoy that freedom and independence. It's important to note as well, though, that in the lower school, we centre all the tutor rooms in one space. So everything happens in the Gilderdale building in recognition of that transition. They are in a self-contained sort of area within the school, and they meet there in the morning, at lunchtime, and that will be the case for year 7 and year 8. So it's sort of a mini school within a school in many ways. And so whilst that freedom and independence might feel quite vast for them, a bit self-contained. In terms of what students say to us they found challenging, no surprises, homework was mentioned as something that they find challenging, and also orientation around the school site can be a little bit tricky. And so with recognition of that, we spend a full day in induction period orienting around the site, showing them classrooms that might be trickier to find, and obviously key things like bathrooms and changing rooms. The homework, Dr. Peters will speak a little bit more about, but we mitigate that by having a homework timetable and making sure that students, have it spread out throughout the week. But the main thing is doing the homework on the night that it's set. And I'm sure that message will be repeated this evening and throughout their time. And then lastly, I thought it was important for you to think about the transition events that are coming up, as families and as individuals. So for the first 2 days of school, we, ease young people's transition by it only being year 7 and year 12s on the school site. The induction days are an exciting moment where they meet their tutor properly. They meet their other peers. We set up the laptops, we do the orientation, and they have lots of fun and games and lots of icebreakers together. In the first week of the term, we have a sports festival. So even if you're not particularly sporty, it's a great way to get to know people. And we invite all members of the community to come along to that, year 7 community. And if you're interested in sports, it's often where lots of sort of selections and conversations about teams might happen. Excitingly, we're going to Gilwell Park for our bonding day. So that's an off-site day in September, October time, where young people will be free to, have fun and explore all the sort of scout type adventures there. And then parents and carers are invited onto school site for the parent tea, which happens in September, October time, dates to follow, which is a great opportunity for you to meet other parents and teachers more informally over tea and cake, I assume. And also important, the final thing from me is that they should absolutely get involved in all of the house events and competitions. It's a great way to settle into. So many events happen in the term one. I had to write them all down. We've got music, hockey, MasterChef, house photography competition, swimming, football, chess, public speaking. Such a wide range of activities occur there. And the most important thing for personal development is just getting involved and having a go. So with that concluded, I'll pass over to Dr. Peters, who's going to speak about academics. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And I'm going to start also by talking about feelings that students might generally have towards academics. So quite often, it might be my experience here at Forest, that students, one of the things they struggle with most, as we all do, is a fear of getting things wrong. And I find it helpful, particularly at the start of the year, and again, partway through their career in the low school in year 8, to remind them that actually we learn to walk by falling over, which is a failure to walk. And it's only by persevering and being resilient with that journey that we actually get there and we're able to walk and be mobile. And that applies equally to all skills and all learning. So my key message, if you take nothing else away from what I'm saying this evening, is to not be afraid of making those mistakes, because that's where you're going to see the best development in your academic profile and where you're going to make progress and achieve the most you can in your time at Forest. And obviously, in recognition of that, you have a support network that's there to help you academically. So Ms. Gale spoke about your pastoral team, who are there to support with emotional and well-being issues, but also that same team kicks into play when it comes to your academic life. And they're there if you're struggling. You can go to your tutor and your head of house. You can also come and speak to me or Mr. Sloan or Miss Murphy, indeed any of your subject teachers as well. And everyone here at Forest is there to support you academically to ensure that you make that progress. And this slide, this graphic is just to illustrate all the different connections that happen all of the time in support of that. So I was thinking about this talk and I thought I'd share, as I do every year with the students, some top tips for academic success. Cannot overemphasize the importance of a good night's sleep. It allows your brain to reset after a significant portion of heavy lifting during the day. And it's therefore critical that our students are getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep a day. And so if you're finding that your child is staying up till 10, 11 o'clock at night, when they've then got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to school, they're not getting enough sleep. And therefore, as parents and carers, I would encourage you to intervene and ensure that at least 30 minutes before they need to go to sleep, that you're encouraging them to stop work and take a break from their screens and just rest and settle down, ready to go to sleep. And obviously on top of that, in the same way, if you're preparing for sport, preparing for study is no different. We need to be receiving proper nutrients and hydration. And so that's vital for academic success as well. The other thing I would ask parents and carers to set up at home is a calm environment in which their student can study. So having a dedicated workspace at home that is ideally outside of their bedroom will help them be more academically successful. They will tell you, I'm sure, that they prefer to work on their bed, sat on their laptop in their hand with the television on. That will not ultimately lead to academic success. Having that dedicated time away from distractions will allow them to focus and achieve more with the homework that they are set. With that in note, as Ms. Murphy alluded to, we do ask for students' opinion and ask them for their top tips. So as you can see now on the screen, Year 7s have shared a number of their top tips for those that are joining us in September. And the key theme that comes across from this is one to do with stress, and specifically not to stress, and to access the support that's available to you. So if you are finding that you're getting stressed because you're not managing your workload, then reach out for that support in the network that you have through your tutor, your head of house, your subject teachers. Okay? It will seem scary, but I promise you, everyone here at Forest will listen and will support as best they can. It's always better to be proactive in that by seeking that support before it becomes an issue. As you'll notice, one of the things that's mentioned by Year 7s there is that we have regular assessments throughout the year, and it's important not to stress about these. And I would echo that sentiment. Yes, you do have assessments. Yes, we do use them to track your progress. But ultimately, they are there to give you feedback on your learning. And therefore, my key message there is, like Year 7s here, is not to panic, not to stress. Do your best, and everyone will support you to get better. So what can you do from a parent-carer perspective at home? So we do have a homework timetable, as Ms. Murphy said. They will be receiving homework every day. So you can ask, what homework have you got today? To prompt them to talk about their day. It was also important, our homework is set through Microsoft Teams and they have assignments. The assignments will appear in order of the due date, but that may not necessarily be the best way for them to work through them. So it would be helpful if you sat down with them and put together a list and help them prioritize those tasks in terms of the best time to do them. And therefore, it's always important to encourage them to do that creative and heavy thinking first, and those short, repetitive tasks later on when they're getting less focused and tired. Okay. I would also say, and this is partly to have them as stress-free in the morning as possible, but also I hope to help your ease of transition out of the door in the morning, encourage them to pack everything for the following day, the evening before. Because as a subject teacher and indeed as deputy head of the lower school academic, the number of times I hear in a day, oh, I forgot that because I didn't pack it last night, is phenomenal, and it's an easy one to fix. So please do encourage them to responsibility and pack their bag the night before. Another thing to note, this is a bring your own device school. So students have to have a device every day. They have to have a fully charged device at the start of the day and bringing the charger. And therefore, it should be one of those things that they're packing the night before. As soon as they finish their homework for the night, the device should go in the bag with the charger so it's ready to go. I would encourage you, if you can, to purchase the device before the summer holiday, so that over the summer holiday, they can become familiar with using it. Because from day one, they're going to be asked to use it. So if they're not used to using a keyboard and mouse because they're used to using a tablet, they need that time to get used to it. So it's a more manageable load once they start in September. One of the key aspects that students always complain about quite vocally in school is access to the school's wireless network. And so I would encourage them to become familiar with enabling and disabling their Wi-Fi connection to make that easier as they travel around the school site. They need to be familiar with using web browsers and accessing the internet on their own and using Office. And it would be very helpful if the Office apps for Microsoft Teams, OneNote, PowerPoint, Word, and Excel are already installed on their device. This will mean that when they're starting to be asked to use it in the digital induction on day 2 of the induction, they already know where to find things on their device, and they're not spending that time trying to work that out, as well as learning how to use it. And it's just about managing that cognitive load for them. As I said, we have assessments and we have reports here at Forest. And I apologise for the fact that there's quite a lot of information on this slide, but you will also later on receive this in a written document from the Deputy Head Academic, Mr. Key, who will give you lots more detail about what all of this means. But in short, students have regular, what we call common department assessments, or CDAs. They will occur at least once every term, and they are graded from exceptional work, which is of the highest caliber and worthy of merit, so is recognised by them being invited to sign the Warden's Ledger of Academic Excellence, where they go and meet the Warden, they talk about the piece of work they've done, and they actually sign a physical book, which is kept in the Warden's office. And then we go down to excellent, very good, and then good, which is the standard we expect of most Forest students. And then we go to inconsistent and concerning, and where a student receives those 3s and 4s, they will be asked to resubmit that work, and they will also receive support in improving that work. We will then also issue a report partway through the year, and that will have a progress descriptor which will describe how well they're accessing the Forest curriculum for that particular subject, Forest learner ratings, which rate how they're engaging with that curriculum, and then they will, for each subject, they will get specific statements relating to their strengths and weaknesses. Okay? They'll only have a subject comment and a tutor comment on that report. Okay, and that's all from me, so I'm now going to hand over to Mr. Sloan.
Thank you, Dr. Peters. So, hello, me again. As has been mentioned a little bit already this evening, one of the most important things we do as part of our transition is to help New Year 7s out by having a designated lower school area. So as Miss Murphy mentioned, we have the Gilderdale building. This is where lower school pupils come in the morning for their registration. That is where the personal development curriculum time happens. The hard play core areas are to the right-hand side. This is access only for lower school pupils in year 7 and 8. It really does become our community hub, and fostering that lower school community is one of the most important aspects of our role in welcoming new year 7s into Forest. It works fantastically well. We have the year 7s on one floor, the year 8s on the other. It allows their tutors, their heads of house, lots of access and easy access to pupils, to speak to them, to support them, to hold important conversations. And it also allows year 7 students to grow into Forest. We are a big school. We do have lots of pupils, and we obviously go up to year 13. So we work very hard to foster this lower school community, to take a little bit of the sting out of that and allow our students to ease into Forest at their own pace and supported and surrounded by their peers. There's even a diner down by the Gilderdale, which our students rotate on different days for usage, as well as some outdoor seating in areas which I know our year 7s and year 8s really appreciate and really like using, particularly now that the weather is finally started to look something like summer. Miss Murphy mentioned and talks a lot about our personal development curriculum. This is central to our transition of year 7. It's structured tutor time, structured assemblies, based around our school values, based around core themes and areas that we want to develop and ensure our students have access to. And we want this to be embedded in all that they do and becoming part of our Forest community. It's so, so important. You've already heard tonight a lot about being part of a team. Dr. Peters mentioned your academic team. Miss Murphy mentioned your pastoral team. These are the pillars of your Forest experience and your Forest journey. And you get really, really strong pastoral support. We call your pastoral team, the central sort of holy trinity, if you like, of your tutor, who's the first port of call. They will get to know you best. They will see our year sixes twice a day, every day, Monday to Friday. They are going to know those individuals inside out and build and bond and really be that first port of call for any kind of support, whether that's pastoral or academic, in our year 7 pupils' lives. You're also allocated to a house. We have 14 houses at Forest, 7 boys, 7 girls. They're also twinned so that each boy and girl house has the opportunity to work together. This happens in a wide variety of different tasks, as well as house competitions. And our house system really does underpin everything that we do at Forest. You may have heard me mention information mornings, if you attended those in October and November, about how as soon as a student joins Forest and the house they are awarded, they automatically feel like that is the best house. And that is the great thing about Forest. Our houses are bespoke. They're all different in nature. They have different colours, different mantras, different ethos. And whichever house you join, you will be in very, very safe hands. And we're very much looking forward to that seminal day on the 22nd of June at Welcome Morning, where you will find out which house the sorting hat, aka Dr. Peters, spreadsheet wizard, has put you in. Really, really important part of your Forest journey. You then, of course, have myself as head of lower school and the team, Miss Murphy and Dr. Peters, and of course, Mrs. Milton, who introduced our webinar tonight as Deputy Head Pastoral. We are your pastoral team. We're there to support you in all that you do at Forest, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We will be there to share in that experience with you. Miss Murphy talked about some of the key events that are so essential to the transition programme at Forest, starting with 2 bespoke days of induction on Monday and Tuesday, the 2nd and 3rd of September. This is a unique opportunity for Year 7s to be in school before the rest of the school start back in the Michaelmas term. It allows us to give pupils access to their online digital resources and have a digital induction that Dr. Peters mentioned. It also allows for lots of team bonding and icebreaker activities, both in your tutor group, which is your house, along with your twinned house, and your teaching set, which is different. And of course, again, gives you opportunities to meet those individuals and start to learn names and hopefully make some really, really good friends as well. We have a parent engagement event where parents and carers are invited in to meet senior members of the Forest staff to get to know what the key drivers, aims and ethos of being at Forest is all about. And we double that up with what Miss Murphy mentioned as the parent tea. Really, really nice informal event, giving opportunities for parents and carers to mix, to put names to faces, to meet staff on a very informal basis and just get a feel for what the school is like and meet some important individuals in your children's lives. The next element is obviously developing good habits. Now, you've heard a little bit about this already. Dr. Peters and Miss Murphy both mentioned in terms of homework, getting work done on the night it's set. But it really is about embedding good habits across all that you do. Part of the Year 7 experience is fully about making mistakes, learning what works best for you, and developing good habits that will set you in good stead in the long run. Okay, as you go up through your Forest experience and into the middle school. So this can be anything from the time that you sit down in the evening to do your homework. Are you going to be someone who does it as soon as you get through the front door? Are you going to have dinner and relax and have some downtime first and come back to it later? Are you going to do it in school, in the school library, before going home and keep a relation between school and work and life balance? There's no right answer. But what is really important is developing good habits that work for you. Everyone is really different. Everyone is diverse. That's part of the journey. And what it's about is working out what works for you as an individual to get the best version of yourself here at Forest. Those habits are also outside the classroom in terms of being organised. Obviously, Dr. Peters mentioned packing your bag the night before. The last thing we want is you bringing in every single book every day. It's not necessary. You'll get some back problems. No one wants that. It'll also allow you to develop habits that will set you absolutely on the right path at GCSE as well. So that comes from engagement in lessons, how you interact with your teachers and your peers, really, really important life skills. And finally, we use lots of role modelling, whether that is vertical within houses, because of course the houses are year 7 to 13. We have a student leadership team in the sixth form who our year 7s will meet and hopefully get to know very well. We capture student voice and student leadership within the lower school with our own lower school council that Miss Murphy runs, and they meet regularly every sort of 3 or 4 weeks. They discuss topical issues of the day, they collect and use student voice and allow us to always be evolving our practice to be listening to what we need to do from the most important people on the ground, our students. And then there's a very important you said we did assembly at the end of each term, recognising what student voice has put forward and what we've been able to master. I always say, quite cheesily, because it's something that stuck with me from when I first started in senior school, far longer ago than I'd like to admit. And that was when the headmaster walked in the room and he said, you will undergo some really big changes. Now you've joined senior school, you have gone from being a big fish in a small pond to a small fish in a big pond. And that is really, really great. It's important because it gives you an opportunity to grow and explore. And that's absolutely what we want from our year 7s. We know, and that's one of the reasons why one of our Forest values that we utilise as our sort of core pastoral underpinning of the first term is about growth. It's about students learning what Forest is all about, learning our culture, learning our ethos, exploring the site, exploring different teachers, making new friends, taking advantage of all the opportunities that Forest has to offer. You're going to experience a totally different world from what you had in whatever setting you came from in primary school, because you're now going to get a wider variety of lessons, a greater variety of teachers. You're going to be moving around our entire site using bespoke facilities, labs for science lessons, the pool, getting into history. All of these different areas will be covered with specialist teachers. You're going to enter a house system that welcomes you as part of the Forest family. And as I mentioned, this underpins everything that we do. Whichever house you go into, you are going to have a fantastic time and feel right a part of that family from the very off. People look after you, you'll recognise them from house colours, looking out for each other, getting involved in mass events like house music, which bring all the houses together as one. Crucially, of course, you're going to get a greater level of independence, okay? And this is going to be everything from entering and leaving the school site. You'll be making your way home on your own, maybe on public transport for the first time, the school bus, a lot of navigating of journeys. What's the best commute? What times you need to get up to make sure you're in school for the first time? Packing your bag, organising your homework. If you make a mistake, rather than asking your parent carer to send an email or deal with it on your behalf, being proactive and speaking to your teachers, being accountable yourself and taking responsibility, asking questions if you don't know something, being curious and inquisitive. All of this we expect from our new year 7s, and I've got absolutely no doubts that the new incoming year 6 cohort will be fantastic in this arena. It will be a much faster pace. We have 6 lessons that are 50 minutes long, but the school day will feel like it goes very, very quickly. Okay, the pace of the day will feel a little bit quicker, even though it's slightly elongated with the 4 o'clock finish. That's all perfectly normal. And part of our role in year 7 is getting you used to this pace. And we do that with a lot of support, with signposting, and with a lot of core messaging from our pastoral team. Dr. Peters already mentioned about organisation, and I cannot overemphasise enough how this will be the key to your success at Forest. Get organised, pack your bag the night before, get the homework done the night it's done, be proactive, speak to your teachers. If you don't understand something, or you've lost something, or you're just not sure, ask. Okay, you can't go wrong by asking questions. Really, really important. Know what you're doing, and if you're not sure, ask. We've mentioned longer days and opportunities and homework, so I'm not going to go over that again. So in terms of your pastoral support, we've already mentioned a lot about your pastoral team, but beyond who we mentioned, your tutor, your head of house, head of section and deputy heads of section, deputy head pastoral, there are so many other areas in which you can access support for your pastoral needs, for your well-being, for your personal development. We have Place to Be. Obviously, Amanda's talked about this tonight, and I hope many of you take advantage of that. It's a great opportunity, even if it's to just have a catch up with Amanda. Top tips, she loves Disney and chocolate, so come prepared. We've also got our learning support team, which are fantastic. They give bespoke learning objectives and independent plans, pupil plans for each of our SEN students, but they're also there to support students who may need to explore a learning need. That's all part of the journey as well. We're supported by digital partners. Those, again, offer extra support. If you're a year 6 or year 7 rather, who doesn't necessarily want to speak to an adult, our digital partners offer an extra layer of support. They're counselling services, some of them are online, they're all heavily monitored, they work with us in partnership with the school, and they're a great resource to have. We use peer mentors, particularly within the house system, very, very important to help encourage individuals in year 7 to settle. And of course, we have our safeguarding team who are there to oversee the safeguarding of all of our pupils. In terms of academics, I'm only going to touch on this briefly, but we have what we call our standards. We want all our students to be Forest learners and adhere to the Forest classroom. So I share with you the 4 Forest standards that we all want our students to be committing to when they join Forest and how they interact in the classroom. I think it's useful to be adverse with our language and what we expect. So the first is, of course, responsibility for your own behaviour, engaging in the lessons, making sure you're abiding by what you've been asked to do, following instructions, listening, and treating every lesson in the same way. Secondly, taking responsibility for engaging in your learning. Are you asking, answering questions? Are you being proactive if you don't understand something? Are you speaking to your teachers? Are you speaking to your peers? And making sure that you're getting the most out of each and every lesson. You also have a responsibility for others' learning, so make sure that you commit to group work. Obviously, we believe heavily in collaboration, and you'll do lots of collaborative work and tasks in the classroom. Are you committing? Are you contributing? And of course, making sure that you're not being a distraction to others. And then finally, we want you to have responsibility for your own academic progress. We want you to know where you are and where you're going. And if you're not sure of that, again, the golden rule, you must just ask. Of course, we have our co-curricular life, and one of the central facets to being able to settle in and transition nicely into Forest and the senior school is to get involved. You will find like-minded people by joining clubs. If you love chess and it's absolutely your biggest hobby, join the chess club, because shock horror, there'll be other people who love chess too. And more often than not, they will form friendships, bonds with you. Like-minded people can be found in all kinds of different areas in Forest. There's so many different activities. Again, I mentioned this at information morning. There's something for everyone. So find your tribe, try things out, get involved. We really do have everything. And if we don't, ask for it. You might remember we even talked about our lightsaber fencing that Dr. Peters runs. So there really is something for everyone. That's not just a gimmick. It really is there. The house provides a wonderful opportunity for these through music, sport, drama, art, MasterChef, public speaking, swimming, steeplechase. There's a whole range of different elements. World Book Day, so many different things to get involved in. So try your hand. Use it as an opportunity to learn, make mistakes, but crucially, it'll allow you to make friends, feel part of Forest, and really embrace everything that we offer. So my top tips: organisation, I said earlier, is the key to everything you do. And I've got 5 slightly key points that I want to just hone in on. Firstly is your bag. Don't come in with every single book for every single lesson every day. Learn your timetable. What do you need? Use our bag racks. Use the secure area where you can safely stow your PE kit. Don't be lugging everything home and back and forth to school every day. That is part of being organised, and really, really important. Do your homework on the night it's set. Unashamedly, that's been mentioned 4 or 5 times tonight, with a reason. Don't let it pile up. Know what you're doing. Get it done early. And that also means that if you've got any problems or concerns you don't understand, you've got an early opportunity to interact with your teacher and say, look, I need a bit more support here. No teacher will ever turn you off or tell you off or sanction you for handing in work late if you've asked for opportunities to improve it or because you don't understand. Really, really important. We use Microsoft Teams to facilitate our assignments. So again, you must get into the habit of checking your assignments once a day. All your homework will be set through assignments, and that will be done by 4:30 on the dot every day. So make sure you check, you log in, you know what you're doing. There can be no excuses for lost work or lost sheets because it will all be uploaded to Teams and it will all be taken care for you. Questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't know something, that's fine. Just ask. There's any number of people you can ask. The worst thing you can do is just keep it to yourself and bottle up. Come and speak to someone. We're not expecting you to know everything. Far from it. We know you won't. And that's part of our role to help you settle. Ask us questions. Let us help you. And finally, and I'm sure this is something that lots of parents and carers may wish to ask about, phones. It'd be remiss of me not to touch on the hot topic of phones. Our expectation of Forest is that pupils can have phones, but that we don't see them during the school day. So from 8:30, when students are expected to be in their form room, ready for registration and to start their personal development curriculum, their phone should be turned off and safely stowed away. Likewise, we don't expect to see them again until 4 o'clock at the end of the school day. Because we're a bring your own device school, all access to your homework, your timetable, your resources is all through Teams, and that can be accessed easily on your device. You do not need your phone to do this. I have been asked by parents about whether there is a need for a smartphone or where a dumb phone would suffice. And absolutely, this is your choice. But to be clear, we don't expect students to have to use their phones for any school-related work. That is what their device is for. If they want to download Teams so they have access to their timetable and things on their phone, they can. But it doesn't change the expectation that the phone is not seen during the school day. My big advice to parents and carers around phones is that it would be naive of us to think that students won't join apps like WhatsApp, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. But what students have to do is think before they type. The biggest thing I see as head of lower school with year 7 and 8, where they get things wrong on social media, is they type things and they write things that they would never say out loud in person. So I always say, if you wouldn't say it, don't type it, because you can't take it back. Don't join big WhatsApp groups. They always end in tears. There is no necessity to join a whole year group chat, a whole class chat. There just isn't a need. Teams has the function for chat, for classes and individual subjects. If you're not sure of a homework, etc., you don't need WhatsApp to facilitate that. We fully appreciate for some students, they won't have had a mobile phone before, or may have only just had one coming into year 6. It's new, it's novel, and they will be very excited to use it. They'll want to be on WhatsApp, they'll want to message, they'll want to be on TikTok. But our advice is to rein it in. You're not missing out if you're not on those things. Speak to people. That's how you're going to make friends. And as I say, it'd be naive and remiss of us to not think that these apps will exist and that you won't use them. Of course you will, but use them in the right way. All students will sign what we call the responsible user agreement when they join Forest, and that is an expectation on their online use as well. Okay, whatever they do online, even out of school hours, can be brought up by the school as part of keeping children safe in education. It all counts. And it's really important that students moderate their phone use and they really think before they type. I can't emphasize that enough. It's really important. And it's one of the first things I say in my first year 7 assembly. Don't join big groups. Always ends in tears. Some top tips from our year 7. We mentioned some of these earlier, but there are a few others that I like to share. And I think they're really important, really pertinent, and really sum up our current cohort. And I've no doubt that the incoming year 7s will be just as influential. Just enjoy it. Just be you. Don't bring everything at the same time. Use your lockers. Be persistent, perseverant, and positive. You'll get success and enjoyment. Embrace new opportunities. Don't hesitate to make friends with lots of people and do lots of house activities. Get homework done the night it's set. Be organised. Pack your bag the night before. If you're stuck, email for help. All of these things we've talked about tonight, and all of these things our year 7s recognise that they know and they've learned, and that our incoming year 7, I hope, take on board as well. And then finally, I always think it's pertinent just to think, who should you know in terms of key figures coming into Forest? Well, there's some mugshots of the kind of key figures that will play a central part in our year 7's lives. We've got the warden, Mr. Cliff Hodges, Miss Stewart, the Deputy Head of Staffing and Operations, Mr. Key, Deputy Head of Academic, Ms. Van Prague, Deputy Head Co-Curricular, Mrs. Milton, who you've met earlier, Deputy Head Pastoral, Mr. Kane, who's our Deputy Head Safeguarding, and then the lower school team, myself, Miss Murphy, and Dr. Peters, who you've all heard from tonight. It's now 10 to 7, and I think this is a good time for us to stop talking and allow 10 minutes for any questions. If you do have any questions, please do push them through, and we'll do our best as a team to answer them. So our first one there, where exactly will year 7 have their lunch every day? Great question. Well, it rotates. So all year groups rotate where they have lunch. They will either be in the dining hall or one of our 2 diners, but it's on a rotation so that all year groups get the same experience. It's a slightly different menu in the 2 diners, but the quality and quantity of the food is just the same. I mentioned the diner and grab and goes. So again, they will be in the main hall, absolutely. Our grab and go provision is only for students who need it because they're going to a lunchtime club or they're going to meet a teacher, and this allows them to get food so that they're not missing out on their lunchtime. It's not for a picnic on the field. It's got to be for the right reasons. As there's so many extracurricular activities at Forest, do they have help choosing what to attend and guidance on timetabling? Yes, absolutely. So some of these are structured anyway. They're part of their curriculum as part of their games and activities program. But we give out a booklet of all extracurricular activities so students know what they are. They have equal opportunity to sign up. They're often at lunch times so that they're not disadvantaging students who have to get the school bus. And their tutor will be that individual who will go with through this with them, because all students are signed up to something called Unifrog, which is where we track their personal development and what they're doing. And this is a great opportunity for them to share the activities they're doing. And tutors can get heavily involved in saying, well, maybe you're doing a bit too much or you're not doing enough, and signpost to the right areas. But we will absolutely give them guidance on how to sign up, where to go, and what to get involved in. A little niche, nothing wrong with that. Prep seniors transition, for those who didn't say this, from our experience in terms of catch up and academic ability, we're well aware that regardless of joining Forest from the prep school or from external feeder schools, everyone's going to come from a slightly different background, a slightly different experience. So we very much go at a balanced, steady pace in year 7. We want to make sure that students are academically challenged, but also that they're given the same opportunities to get to the same footing. If we feel that intervention is needed, Dr. Peters looks at our data, he looks at assessments, he looks at those who maybe need a little bit of extra help, and he runs intervention sessions on a Tuesday for students who need that. In terms of revision, we will teach students how to revise. So we teach them the core techniques of different skills to learn to revise across the year, because we're well aware that one revision technique will not necessarily be beneficial for someone else. Everyone learns in different ways. So we want to equip all of our students, regardless of where they're joining Forest from, of lots of different revision techniques. And part of year 7 is learning from these and working out which works best from you. That's part of the journey. Does the laptop with Microsoft Office have to be dedicated in school, or can it have other? Yeah, it can have other programs, Photoshop games. That's absolutely fine. Obviously, within a lesson, the expectation is that students are only using apps that are applicable to their learning and what they're doing in the moment. We do have a little gaming centre in the Martin Centre that's limited for about 20 minutes each lunchtime. if students do want to do that, because we recognise that's how some students will also form connections as well. Assuming same rules as prep, well, yes and no. So obviously we have a behaviour policy that is very similar to what runs through the prep school. Obviously our rewards and sanctions looks different, and this will all be updated in terms of school profile, home profile on the laptop. That all gets updated when you join the senior school. So new year 7s will find out their choosers and head of house the night before welcome morning. So we send it out on the 21st, so that when you come into welcome morning on Saturday 22nd, that's when you will physically meet your tutor and head of house for the first time. And it's a very magical moment. And Dr. Peters, our resident sorting hat, has worked very, very hard in putting all that together. Cohort on average. So the current year 7 is going to be roughly about kind of 185 at the moment. That's where we're sitting, which is about where we want to be at the moment. Class sizes are consistent. So all classes, in terms of teaching classes, will be no more than 24. And obviously in some subjects, particularly like art, DT, music, they're actually split in half because of the logistics and the needs of the equipment that's needed. So actually the class of 24 will be split into 2 of 12, but classes never go over 24. Good question. So we will be sending in due course kind of recommendation about devices and digital induction. The key is a device that obviously enables Microsoft Office. We tend to recommend not using tablets with keyboards, because we find they tend to be more problematic in terms of connections, apps, and they're not necessarily built for work. So we would recommend ideally a lightweight laptop. My huge top tip around buying a device, if you're going out to buy one, is the lighter the better. You know, students don't need big, heavy, clunky laptops. They'll need them every day. So the lighter the better, really. If you already have a tablet-enabled device with a keyboard, that's fine. But we just find that they don't tend to work quite as well. Yes, so in terms of books, all year 7 students are designated a locker, so they can use and leave books in there overnight at their whim. That's absolutely fine. That they might find that that's really helpful. Obviously, if they're going to a different residence to do homework, they should only need 1 or 2 books, but ideally all the resources are online through Teams anyway. So it's just going to be about being organised and actually using the locker space in school so that things aren't forgotten and left if you're flitting between 2 different addresses. Excellent. I think we may have come to the end of any questions. I'll just give it 30 seconds just in case there's any more. But it looks like there aren't actually, which is great, and that's very apt, and we can finish 3 minutes early. If you did have any questions at all that come to you later on, please feel free to email the school office. They'll redirect any questions or queries to the right person, whether that's myself or Miss Murphy or Dr. Peters. We'd be very happy to answer those in lieu of September. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. I hope you found this insightful and informative, and I hope that's given you some food for thought. And on behalf of myself and Amanda, Olivia and Phil, thank you for your time, and we very much look forward to meeting you at the welcome morning on the 22nd. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.